Lesson tonight 12. Okay. So tonight I want to discuss a message entitled Friends. Now, when you hear the term friends, what do you think of, or how do you define a friend? Now, I know some of you might be thinking about the TV show Friends, right? But no, not the TV show. We're going to be talking about friends, and most importantly, how the Bible defines a friend, right? So, a friend is someone who will remain loyal and helpful in good times and even the bad, speaking the truth even when it hurts. Someone who can demonstrate the kind of love described in 1 Corinthians 13. We will look at that just now, right? And finally, someone who is willing to lay down his life for another person, even if they did you wrong. That is the biblical definition of a friend, right? And the love demonstrated in 1 Corinthians 13 is from 4 to 7, right? It says, charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not, vaunteth not itself, it is not puffed up, do not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. If we count off that, it's over. Let's count it, right, to see how much things they say charity is here, right? So, charity suffereth long, is kind. Charity envieth not, vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, do not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth, believeth all things, hopeth all things, beareth all things, endureth all things. Those are 15 things in 4 to 7. There is 4 verses there, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 15 things they mention for love, right? In just 4 verses. And if we look at that, that is the biblical definition of love. And what I mentioned in the definition of a friend is that someone who can demonstrate the kind of love described in 1 Corinthians 13, right? And even if we think of it, those 15 things can be fit down into one word, love. And that one word could be fit or categorized into one word, God, because God is love, right? But today our message will be based on friends, right? And the first point is that, well, you all can add in more if you all are taking notes, but I only have 3 points for 3 different types of friends, right? So there are 3 types of friends. The good friend whom everyone loves and appreciates. Then it's have the traitor type and the unsung hero, right? And we want to look at each one of these, and then we will go on with our lesson, right? So the first one is the good friend that everyone loves. So this is more or less as the name says, but let's look at a biblical example of this, right? And my example is Ruth and Naomi, taken up from Ruth chapter 1 from verse 1 to 18, right? This example is Ruth and Naomi, and how a mother and a daughter-in-law, could have such a relationship. So Ruth chapter 1, read it from verses 1 to 18, right? And it says, now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled, and there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab. He and his wife and his 2 sons, right? So far we just see there was a famine, and this guy went to sojourn in a country, right? And he, his wife, and his 2 sons. Verse 2 says, and the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife, Naomi, the name of his 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. Verse 3, and Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons, right? So far we see is that they went to sojourn in the country, but her husband died. Naomi, her husband died, right? And she was only left with the 2 sons. Verse 4 says, and they took them wives of women of Moab, and the name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died also, both of them. And the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. So here we see now the woman also lost her 2 sons. So first she lost her husband, and then afterwards she lost her 2 sons, right? Verse 6. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how the Lord had visited his people, giving them bread, right? Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on their way to return unto the land of Judah. Verse 8. And Naomi said unto her daughters-in-law, go each return unto his mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. So here we see, but this is where our message will mostly be taken up from, right? It's from here. So far we see that Naomi, she lost her husband and she lost her 2 sons, right? And she's only left with her daughter-in-laws and daughters-in-law, right? And here is now where she's telling them now in verse 8, say, return unto your mother's house. Because she explained how God had dealt with her. She said that God had dealt with me. Well, she considered it bad, right? Because she lost not only her husband, but right after that, she lost her 2 sons, right? And then in verse 9 she say, the Lord grant you that ye may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice, and they wept, right? So far we see that she is just telling them to go to your mother's house, and she is blessing them more or less, right? And they wept because obviously they was connected or had a strong bond with her, right? So they wept. And then Naomi said, this is still the mother, right? And well, the mother-in-law in this case. And she said, turn again, my daughters, why will you go with me? And there yet any more sons in my womb, and that they may be your husbands. So she is questioning herself that why she know they're weapon, right? And she's trying to tell them, just go, because there isn't any more sons that I could give you to husband. In other words, she's telling them, it's best to go because I have nothing left that I could offer you. And that is Naomi trying to tell them. In verse 12, it says, turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband also tonight, and should also bear, right? So here is she's telling them that I am too old to even have a husband where I can make children for you to husband. So she's telling them that I have no hope for you, just go to your mother, right? Would you tarry for them till they were grown? Would you stay for them having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. So she's telling them that my husband will be there. If I was to make husbands or sons in this case, you would just stay there until they grow old. And she's telling them, no, don't do that. Go back unto your mother. And again, she's telling them that she has no hope for them, right? And they lifted up their voice again and wept, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth cleaved unto her. And she said, behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people, and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. So far we see that Ruth didn't want to leave her mother-in-law. Ruth was so bounded with her mother-in-law that she didn't want to leave her mother-in-law, and the mother-in-law is telling her that Orpha, your sister-in-law, has already gone back to her mothers and to her gods. You too do the same, because as she's telling them that she is not able to make any children for them to husband. And Ruth said in verse 16, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and whither thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Where thou diest, I will die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me. In verse 18 she said, when she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, she then left speaking unto her. You see, Ruth, she was cleaved unto her mother-in-law. She didn't want to leave. And this is what I'm trying to point out, is that Naomi was a great friend unto her daughters-in-law. Naomi was like someone so close that they even looked up to. They was even willing to go and lay down their life for them. As Ruth said, whether thou goest, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. She said, if you're going to die, I will die with you. Where you die, I will die there too. This is the kind of love that they both shared, and that is an example of the good friend that everyone appreciates and love, and we should be seeing that in the church as well as ourselves. We should be that example, right? But the next friend is the traitor type, and it's just as the name says. And the most famous example we can give is Judas and Christ, right? There isn't any more traitor than could beat back Judas, right? So let's take example from Judas and Christ. We see in Luke 22, and we want to read from verse 3 to 6, and then we'll take up reading somewhere else, right? So Luke 22, and we take up reading from 3 to 6. And it said, then Satan entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the 12, and he went his way, and communed with the chief priests and the captain, how he might betray him unto them. And they were glad and covenanted to give him money, and he promised a sort of opportunity to betray him unto them in the absence of the multitude. So far we see is that Judas, as we mentioned in the traitor type friend, Judas is planning to betray Christ. And the scribes and Pharisees, and they was promised to give him a sum of money if he do so, and Judas said, yes, I will, and I promise to do it in the absence of the multitude, because obviously he don't want any big crowd or big scene going to happen, right? So he said he would do it in the absence of the multitude. And if you want to take reading from verses 47 now, it says, and while he yet spake, behold, a multitude, and he that was called Judas, one of the 12, went before them, and drew near unto Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said unto him, Judas, betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss? When thy which were about him saw that will follow, they said unto him, Lord, shall we smite thee with a sword? So far we seen is that Judas is betraying Christ, and he came to kiss Christ. Out of all the things, he came to kiss Christ. And Christ said, do you betray me with a kiss? That is a level of disrespect, right? And then the rest of the disciples was like, well, Lord, shall we smite them that come against you? And we see that afterwards, and one of them smote the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. So they was ready to defend Jesus, right? And Jesus answered and said, suffer ye thus far. And he touched his ear and healed him. So in other words, Jesus didn't want to attack the people, right? Jesus was the one that tell them, do not worry about it. And he healed them, but suffered us thus far, and he touched his ear and he healed them, right? So far we see that Jesus healed back the man's ear because he didn't want them to attack him. And then we see that afterwards, then Jesus said unto the chief priests and captains of the temple and elders which will come unto him, be ye come out as against a thief with swords and staves? So Jesus is telling them that, so you come unto me as a thief with swords and staves. He later tell them that when I was daily with you in the temple, you stretched forth no hands against me. But this is your hour and the power of darkness. Jesus is telling them that I was always with you in the temple. You didn't come against me, and now you come against me with swords and all these armor and these stuffs. Jesus is telling them that I will have surely gone with you, right? So that is the traitor type. That is the traitor type friend. So first we looked at the friend that everyone appreciates and loves, right? And that was Naomi and her 2 daughters-in-laws, right? And now we looked at the traitor type, and we looked at Jesus and Judas. Now we want to look at another type, which is the unsung hero. Now you all might be wondering, what does this mean? What does this still mean? And only recently I find out what it means, right? But it more or less means that someone does good and is not appreciated for it. So far we looked at the one that does good and is appreciated for it. Now we're going to look at the person that does good but is not appreciated for it, right? And I want to take example as Jesus and the 10 lepers. And that is Luke 17, reading from verses 11 to 19. Luke chapter 17, reading from 11 to 19. Right, so this is Jesus and the 10 lepers. And now you all may be familiar with the story already. And if you're not familiar, we will look at it, obviously. So let's read from verse 11, right? And it came to pass, as he went to Jerusalem, that he passed through the midst of Samaria and Galilee. And as he entered into a certain village, there were met him 10 men that were lepers, which stood afar off, and they lifted up their voices and said, Master, have mercy on us, right? So far, we see that Jesus went to that city and he met up with 10 lepers and they cried out to him, have mercy on us, right? And if you remember, I believe it was last week that we dealt a lesson on a leper, right? And that is a disease that, it was contagious and it was, it could ruin you so bad to melt your skin and all these other things, right? And that was these men was facing. And they cried out to Jesus, help us. They cried out. And we see that after Jesus said, and when he saw them, he said unto them, go show yourselves unto the priests. And it came to pass that as they went, they were cleansed. And one of them, when they saw that he was healed, turned back with a loud voice and glorified God, and fell down on his face at his feet, giving thanks. And he was a Samaritan. So we see there that they came unto Jesus for healing. And Jesus said, go unto show yourself unto the priest. And while they were going, they were healed. And when this one recognized that, that he was healed, he went back to God and, Jesus, and he gave thanks unto him. But we later on see that, and Jesus said, were they not 10 cleansed? But where are the 9? So Jesus was asking them, he only see one came back. So he was like, didn't I cleanse 10? Why are 1? Where is the rest, right? Where are the 9? And and after Jesus, he said, they are not found that return glory to God, save the stranger. Just Jesus saying that, have they not, consider it to come back and give glory unto God for what? And as you mentioned, leprosy is not just something disease, it's very contagious and it is so bad. And yet they didn't even consider it to come back to Jesus and even glorify God in this, right? And Jesus said unto him, arise, go thy way, thy faith had made thee whole. So, an unsung hero, someone who does good and is not appreciated for it. We see over here that Jesus done good, right? These men were on their deathbed. They was ready to die because they had leprosy. And God knows what was going to happen to them. And they cried out to Christ. Christ healed them. But what happened in the end is that they never returned to glorify God beside a Samaritan, a stranger. And it shows that many of us in our daily lives, God blessed us with so many things. And we didn't even consider to thank God for even waking us up this morning, or even getting us here safely, or all these other things. We just go past our days, right? But let's continue the lesson. It's important that we choose our friends wisely. So we looked at 3 different examples of friends, right? And what I'm saying is now it's important that we choose our friends wisely, because the people you choose can exert a strong influence on you for good or for bad, as we saw in those examples, right? The people that you are surrounded with, the people that you are lying around with, could exert a strong influence on you, whether it be for good or for bad. And if you don't think of it like that, consider this, right? So recently, I was doing a PD lab, a plan and design lab, right? And it was based on the effect of space on a plant, right? So in other words, a plant in a big can will grow a certain way, and a plant on a small can will grow a certain way, right? And my experiment was to see which one goes better and which one goes the other way, right? Or if it goes the same. So my opinion was that the one in the bigger pan will grow better, and the one in the smaller pan will grow less healthier, right? And when I did the lab, it did happen to be that way, that the one on the larger amount of space did grow better than compared to the one on the smaller space. And the reason was that the one in the larger space had more nutrients for it, had more things that help grow it or help uplift it, right? And make it the good plant it is. But the other one, it was in a small area, the roots couldn't barely even stretched out. It barely reached its potential to grow as how big it could have grown. And the only reason it was because it was in a small pan. The soil was very little. I treated the same way. I used the same seed. I used the same amount of water. I used the same sunlight. I put it in the same space. But nevertheless, the reason because it was in a smaller pan, it didn't grow the same. And similarly, that is just like us. We are the same people, right? All of us are human beings. And we can be treated the same way. We could have same rain falling over our head, same sun shining on us. But the environment which we place ourselves into could cause an effect on our very own growth, to our potential and how we can grow. Consider it, right? You are lying around people who barely even mention Christ, barely talks about Christ. What growth are you getting from that? What knowledge are you gaining from that? They will only be there to keep you from reaching your potential growth in Christ. They will never let you reach the one, as we see in the bigger pan. He grew to his potential because he was well fed. There were people, in this case soil, was there to nutrient it, to help it grow to its potential growth. And if we lie around people that will help nutrient us or help build us up spiritually, feed us the word, then eventually we will reach our potential. But nevertheless, we are humans and we are hardened, right? We tend to lie around people, some of us might say, well, Jesus, are you saying with sinners? We have to say about that, brother. Well, you see, the thing is, Jesus, he limed around sinners. And he didn't went there to sin with them. You see no difference, right? There's a difference between liming around sinners and sinning with sinners. You could be around sinners and you could be preaching the word of God. You see, Jesus said, I did not come to heal the healthy. It's not the healthy that need a doctor. Do you go to the hospital when you are healthy? No. It's only when you are sick then you go to the hospital, right, to get treatment. And Jesus said, I did not come to heal the healthy, but rather I came to heal the sick, and these the people that I came to heal. But then there are us now who decide, well, yeah, I see Jesus did that, so why not I do it myself? And we tend to go with the sinners, but instead of curing them, they infect us. So we get sick just like them, and we become sinners just like them. Know the difference, right? Know the difference. So our very own environment and how we choose friends can impact us, right? Take and read it from Proverbs 13:20, right? It says, He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. If that's not clear, read this verse. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33. Be not deceived, evil communication corrupts good morals. Them two verses, it's so plain forward. It's saying that if you are lying around bad people, you become just as them. But if you lie around good people, you will gain, you will grow spiritually. And then they say, be not deceived, evil communication corrupt good morals. The communication you carry around with people and the people you lie around, communication in this case was referring to the people you indulge with, right? Those people, it corrupts good morals, your morals. Think of yourself, your inner characters. Those things will be destroyed by the people you lie around with, right? And we should consider that, right? And then the psalmist says in Psalms 119:63, he says, I am a companion of them that fear thee, and of them that keep thy precepts. And the question is, can we say the same? Are we companions of them that fear thee, referring to God? And are we companions of them that keep thy precepts, referring to God as well? Are we companion of the people that uplift God? And the question is, as we should ask ourselves, right? Sometimes we don't even think of it like that, right? And also, we looked at the 3 types of friend, right? And we looked at how we can choose our friends. Now, the thing is, some people might say, well, brother, you just explained to me 3 different types of friends. It's better just don't have none at all. And you just want the easy way out, right? But also, having a friend is a good thing. Having a friend is a good thing. And if you don't believe me, hear what Ecclesiastes reminds us of, right? Ecclesiastes 4 verse 9 to 10. It says, 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward in their labor. For if they fall, the other will lift his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. Do you see it there is that we might say well, I don't want any friends after what you explained to me, but what Ecclesiastes reminds us is that two is better than one. If you fall down, there's always someone to help lift you back up. You see, we can't just do this by ourselves. We need the entire church to help grow, to help us, get better. And if we decide not to, just to stay in our little corner zone, and we just want to go alone because you're finding loneliness is way better, and that people could betray you, people could, do all kind of sorts of thing against you. The scripture is telling us that when we fall down, it's always better to have another to help lift you up. Because if you decide to go alone, who is going to lift you up? And then later, you might think bad, right? So might do yourself ill. But if you have another to help lift you up, you will exceed, right? So having a friend is a good thing. And now the third thing I should say now is being a friend is a good thing. Because some of us might mistake it and say, well, you just said that having a friend is a good thing, but having a friend and being a friend is completely two different things. You see, having a friend is having someone more or less to look after you, to be, as we demonstrated in the beginning, is what to be loyal, to kind of demonstrate the love shown in 1 Corinthians 13 to lay down your life for another, right? That is having a friend. But being a friend is the one that does it. And if all of us just want a friend, who's going to be the one to want to give out to be a friend? In order to have a friend, you must be a friend of someone as well. So in this case, you could be friends, right? So having a friend is a good thing, but also being a friend is another good thing, right? And last but not least, there is not a friend like the lowly Jesus. We might think of it as saying that, well, yes, brother, you just said having a friend is a good thing, being a friend is a good thing, but this world is full of imperfect people. If you think that you can't have no friend on this earth, God promises us His very own Son to be our friend. And He is our perfect friend. Now, I'm not saying not to have friends on this earth. That is completely opposite what I'm saying. I'm saying to have friends on this earth, but sometimes you need special help. And you could go to the boss, right? The boss up there. He is the special friend we need. So Jesus is the perfect friend we all can look up to and reach out in our trying times. And I love the scripture reading Brother Justin read today. They wanted to take down the woman, right? they plot against her. But Jesus was her friend in this case. Jesus said, "He that is without sin cast the first stone." You see how Jesus came to her rescue right there. If Jesus wasn't there, what would have happened to her? But again, there was plotting against Jesus, right? So they pull her up. And Jesus said, "Well, where is thine accusers? Has anyone cast any stone?" She was like, "None, Lord." And Jesus said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." You see, that is the friend that we need. Jesus, the lowly Jesus. And why did I say lowly? We sing this song so much time. Why did I say lowly? Hear what Jesus tells us in Matthew, right? Matthew chapter 11, reading from verses 28 to 30. Matthew 11, from verses 28 to 30. He says, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." Can you find any better comfort and words than that? Jesus is telling us that you that are heavy and you just have so much burdens upon you, right? Jesus is saying that, come unto me. He is giving you the option to come unto me. It's not like He is saying or forcing Himself into you, because that wouldn't really be pleasure, right? Jesus is offering you to come unto me. My yoke is easy and my burden is like He promised to give us rest. And you all know it's a yoke. A yoke is, most of the old people should know this, right? But a yoke is what they more or less use to bind two cattle, I believe, right? And something like that. And they're going, and if one falls, the other one is there to help lift it up, right? It's carrying it together, right? They're working together. And Jesus is telling us that His yoke is easy and His burden is light. You don't have to carry anything. He said that I will be in charge of this and I will carry you right along the way. Just come unto me ye that are heavy, and as he says, ye that are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Isn't any better comforting words? So what we learned today? We learned there are three types of friends. The one that everyone loves and appreciates, and we looked at examples of Ruth and Naomi, and also Oprah, if that was the name, I'm sorry. And then we looked at the traitor type, and we took the example from Jesus and Judas. Then we looked at the unsung hero, which is Jesus and the 10 lepers, someone that is not appreciated for his good deeds, right? And now we brought reference that, having a friend is a good thing. We might be scared and heartbroken that this world is full of so much imperfect people, right? But having a friend is a good thing because they are there to help lift us up. And we also learned that being a friend is a good thing. Be there for one another, reach out for one another. Being your brother's keeper, right? And as we mentioned, I taught this lesson way back, is that when you are one body, you look out for one another. If one hand is ill, or you cut your hand, your other hand will heal it back up, right? We are one body. We will help work out things for each other. If one of our members falls, we will bring them up. If one is uplifted or honored, we will glorify in it, right? Rejoice, right? We are one body, right? And then we learn that there is not a friend like the lowly Jesus. All of our struggles, all of our burdens, we could just go unto him, and he promised to give us rest, right? So thank you all for listening. That was our lesson for tonight. We now